Okay, Mayor Stevens, we are now live.
Okay. I'm gonna give Councilmember Babcock just a couple of seconds, just in case. All right.
Hey, Ron.
All right. All right. You know what? If she responds, then it's okay. If not, it's all good as well. All right. Thanks everybody for being with us on this East Lansing City Council special meeting this Thursday at 4 p.m. Will the clerk please call the roll? Folks, keep in mind our new rules regarding virtual meetings. And it looks like Lisa will be joining us. Second.
Councilmember Babcock, Councilmember Bacon,
Present, East Lansing, Michigan, Clinton County.
Councilmember Watson,
Here attending virtually in East Lansing, Michigan, Ingham County.
Mayor Pro Tem Greg,
Present, attending virtually from East Lansing, Ingham County.
Mayor Stevens.
Here, attending virtually from East Lansing, Michigan, Ingham County. And I do believe Councilmember Babcock is attempting to join. So when she interjects, we'll let her have the floor. So next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion on this or any changes? There's Lisa. Hey, Lisa. All right, is there a motion on the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Babcock, moved by Councilmember Bacon. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Wonderful. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the regular council meeting on January 19th. Yeah.
Just for the clerk and for the record, can we have Councilmember Babcock verify her attendance and location?
Thank you. Lisa Babcock, attending virtually from my home in East Lansing, County of Ingham, State of Michigan.
Mr. Homier, does that satisfy this or do you need something else?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Anytime.
We're on the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion on the minutes from January 19th?
I'll move approval of the minutes from January 19th.
Okay. Is there a second?
I can second.
Seconded by Councilmember Watson, moved by the Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right. Next item on the agenda is communications from the audience. Keep in mind we have a 5-minute time limit, and I will be trying to hold folks to that. Emily will give you a 30-second warning. Emily, do we have any callers now?
All right, caller with the phone number ending in 963, you are now permitted to address council.
Hi, this is Alice Trigger. Regarding the ordinance you're going to pass today, I just want you to know that we asked for information about which houses or properties had been written up for violation of the public health ordinances. And we're basically given what we feel is a runaround. In the past, we've got this information from the police, and I believe it to be in the public interest because it's important for the people of East Lansing to have a sense of who's violating the public health orders on this pandemic, but also how widespread the problem is. And we were told, my reporter on this, Emily Joan Elliott, who's our managing editor, was told to FOIA it. She was told how to FOIA it, and she did FOIA it. And then we were hit with an expected bill of $560 just to get this information. I actually now think that the runaround was probably caused by the fact that you accidentally let this lapse. But it's pretty frustrating to get people information that should be basic information. That's not my question for today. My questions relate to the Newman Loft decision that you made on November 10th. I didn't realize the motion that you read into the record actually gives them until the end of the leases in summer to take any enforcement action. So I thought that what you guys were talking about was doing a 60-day discussion with a revisiting of the decision to do enforcement at that point. But the staff motion given to you actually does it all the way to the end of the leases. So my question is, when do the leases expire? Your motion did not actually refer to an actual date certain. You simply referred to when the leases expire, and I can't find any information about you having obtained information about when the leases expire. Secondly, when are you coming back to discuss that issue? Is it not going to be until late summer? And thirdly, are you aware that if there are in fact 3 apartments, we were originally told 4, but then told 3, and the potential is $100 a day per zoning violation, that if this violation persists for a year, 365 days, the city could have charged $109,000 in fines. And normally the city is pretty aggressive about charging fines for anybody who's found to be violating rental licenses. I'm wondering about what the implications are for the city of allowing an open violation of zoning ordinances with regard to rentals and simply not collecting the money, given that this has been handled very differently for other landlords in the city. Thank you.
Understood. Sorry, question for the caller. Are you asking if we put ourselves in a risk situation via the motion that we put out there? I'm just trying to clarify.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question because I was being muted and unmuted by the host at the time.
Okay. So my question is, are you referring to risk associated from a legal standpoint, or are you just saying the implication and the I guess, the setting of standard, right, of how we deal with situations in the city?
Well, I'd like to know when the leases expire so that I understand when enforcement could occur, so that we can accurately report when council might or the city might do enforcement. I want to understand when you're coming back on the agreement. And yes, I want to understand whether or not there is an implication here for the city in terms of allowing a major landlord to violate the law for a year with 3 apartments. And that's not a question that you put to your city attorney before voting 4-1 to do this and to let it go on for a full year.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other callers?
Caller with the phone number ending in 876, you are now permitted to address council.
Caller with the phone number ending in 876. If you hit star 6, you should be able to unmute your phone, speak to the council. Caller with the phone number ending in 876. One more time. You are permitted to speak to the council. If you hit star 6 on your phone, you should be able to unmute.
Oh, hi. My name is Michael Zach from East Lansing. Well, Okemos, but I've been walking into East Lansing for 50 years. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to speak on the relative constitutionality of all this. Since yesterday, I heard the health official of Ingham County say she can write her own laws, and she expects everybody to be vaccinated. So I was just wondering exactly how an emergency ordinance is permanent, as the law you are going to sign into law right now says that this emergency ordinance will be in effect until you decide it's not, and re-vote on it. Can anyone smell an unconstitutional act that is literally rotting our faces? And I'm not quite sure. But so I expect that people will be fined for $500 to support some unconstitutional law that somebody dictates, and then somebody will take this law, take that fine to a court, and the city council will pay a lawyer to fight this as a losing battle, and then everybody that's been subject to police harassment and enforcement and fines for dictated laws or regulations will then have standing to join a lawsuit against the city for police harassment and the violation of our human and civil rights. So I wonder what the council is thinking about doing to, is there actually a cap to the dictated laws that can be pronounced by a government official regarding our health or our vaccines or our breathing or our masking or our being able to use public services or enter public places? Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, you know, we've, I'm gonna try and address the caller's comments, and I don't feel it necessary to speak to the city attorney regarding constitutionality, although if other council members want to do that, that's okay. You know, we're in a difficult situation across the country right now. You know, our state saw a surge of cases, and the governor saw fit to try and put us on pause. The balance of trying to figure out how to support our businesses while trying to be safe, how to have some sense of normalcy, while also attempting to stop the spread of a deadly virus, is not one that anybody really expected when they probably ran for the seat. Maybe Dana and Ron got the upper hand on that one because they got appointed, but I understand the frustration of people that really just want to get back to some bit of normal life, and I get it. The problem with that is the only way we're going to do that is if we slow and stop the spread. And we have a vaccine. There's a new variant, but the new variant, in the same way as what we've seen in the past, has a slower spread when folks are wearing masks, when folks are distancing, and when people are taking into account the safety measures that are put in place to make sure that you know, we can celebrate a holiday next year with somebody close. So I understand the hesitation and the frustration. I do. But I just want to remember that there are hundreds of thousands of people in this country that left their families for the last time because of this virus. There's a lot of people that aren't going to be able to go to the party next year, right? We have a decision to make in this city, and we have decisions to make constantly about what are we going to do to best protect the people in our community. And they're really tough decisions, and you know, I grapple with them myself a lot. But at the end of the day, this city, our health department, and everybody here is going to do everything we can to try and keep people safe. And unfortunately, there are some people that don't share that mentality, and that's okay. But we're going to put the rules in place, and we're going to put some real teeth on them too, because education is the most important part. Communication is the most important part. But when it gets down to it, and none of those other avenues have worked, we need to make sure we're keeping people safe. And that's why we're going to put things like this in place. And it's tough, and it's not something I would have imagined doing, certainly. It wasn't something I even imagined doing last year, let's say around, you know, March. But as we saw cases to continue, as we saw communications and outreach efforts falling short of some folks, the majority of people, of course, listened and understood. These kind of things need to be put in place. So I understand the frustration, but we have to keep people safe. And as mayor and as this council, I'm sure can concur, we're going to do everything we can in our power to make sure that that happens. So thanks to the caller for calling in. Emily, do we have anybody else?
Yes.
Mayor, can I respond to that question
Yep.
as well before we move forward? Yeah, I think any government official, their primary responsibility ultimately is to the community, and then secondary and more acutely to people on the front lines. I think when anyone wants to have these conversations, you have to consider what we're asking people on the front lines to do. and what they face acutely, bringing a very large volume of sick and people coming through in crisis through a very small what method or means of servicing those people. Ultimately, that yes, all the freedoms of the community. No one wants freedoms more than me, but I will stand with the people who are on the front lines: our police, fire, the hospital systems here, and all these things that without management sacrifice would be in full collapse. So I appreciate the statements of the mayors, but I put my full standing behind the people on the front lines. That's what this comes down to at the end of the day, because and when you're in doubt and questioning what's going on at the seat of government, just talk to someone in an ICU unit or a law enforcement and get a new perspective, and then come back to us.
Yep. All right. Any other callers, Emily? Sorry, I think you said you had one.
Yes, Tony Combs, you are now permitted to address council.
Tony, if you unmute, you should be able to speak to the council.
You guys, I'm the closed captioner and I'm having trouble getting in. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Emily, could we get that addressed? Thank you. Thanks, Tony.
Can you mute me, please?
Yeah.
May I?
Yeah.
Now that we know who our closed captioner is, I would like to say thank you very much for doing our meetings. And as some of you know, I have a family member with a disability, and it's not hearing or visually related. But the first thing she said to me when she heard that we were doing online meetings was, "That's cool, but they'd better be accessible." And so the city, I know, has paid a lot to have our meetings closed captioned. And I think that's money well spent. And now that we know who our closed captioner is, thank you so much for sticking with us and getting the job done.
Emily, would you mind just letting us know when we're all set? We can wait until that.
We should be all set.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, if that concludes communications with the audience, we'll move on to our business agenda. We have one item on our business agenda: consideration of Ordinance 1497, an ordinance requiring compliance with public health orders. I will pass this on to our city attorney, Mr. Homer.
Thank you. So I want to address a couple things. One of which is I don't think any of us expected to be here. The original ordinance addressing the same subject matter ran through the end of the year. Unfortunately, I think the city finds itself in a position where we need to extend it. Just addressing the constitutionality of it, I want to make clear what the ordinance is. The reason why it's designated an emergency ordinance is pursuant to your city charter. And so because of the designation as an emergency ordinance, that allows the city council to both consider and adopt that ordinance at the same meeting. But nowhere under your charter or your city code does it talk to or speak to the termination of that ordinance. In other words, it is the prior ordinance that the city adopted was self-terminating. It had a deadline in it. This one does not, and it does not because we don't know when it will be, when the current health orders will be revoked either by MDHHS or the Ingham County Health Department or the Clinton County Health Department. What the ordinance does do is it says that if somebody violates those otherwise lawful health orders, then they can be fined $500 as a civil infraction. What that does is it allows the city to enforce the health orders issued by MDHHS as well as Ingham and Clinton County Health Departments locally, so that you have broader and more swift enforcement of those orders. Particularly what we're talking about in the city are limitations on gatherings. And so MDHHS has that authority through the public health code, so does Ingham and Clinton County. So really what the city is doing is simply enforcing those on a local basis within the city.
Thank you, sir. All right. I'll speak to the motion if it is made. If there's no other comments or questions, I will look for a motion.
I'll move approval.
Okay. Is there a second?
In second.
Great. Any comments? I do have some. I'll take a point. So it's important that we obviously have a way to address these violations in a direct way with a civil monetary fine and empower public safety officials to issue those tickets to those who don't recognize the severity of the situation that we're in. We had a mistake made by not passing this sooner. We're not going to shift blame, not going to make excuses, but we're also not going to lose focus. So we're able to address it in the quickest way possible tonight when it was brought to our attention, and we're going to move forward learning from our errors. So thanks for the quick response from staff, our attorneys, and the council on this action. I appreciate the flexibility and willingness to push this forward because it is obviously extremely important to our community. Please be assured that those tickets that were issued previous to this from January 1 onwards, if they were MSU students involved, those have still been passed on to the university, and all of them have been passed on to Ingham County Prosecutor's Office, although we do not have control over whether or not they choose to continue down that path. So again, this is an important ordinance that we put in place to make sure that we have the tools at our disposal to make sure that the health guidelines are being followed. So thanks to everybody that made it work on this, and appreciate your time. All right. Any other comments? Go ahead, Councilmember Babcock.
Oh, nothing, we just need to take a vote.
Okay, great. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Wonderful. All right, that passes unanimously. That concludes our business agenda and our entire agenda. So thanks everybody for being with us. Thanks Mr. Homier, Mr. Lahanas, and staff, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.